Welcome to Your Brand Amplified, the podcast where we interview marketers, publicists, and brands to learn their stories, what makes them tick, and tips and tricks that make a difference. I'm Annika Jackson with Your Brand Amplified, and I'm very, very thrilled after a very long wait for both of us to have Thomas Helfrich of Instantly Relevant on the show. Thomas, you are the CEO of Instantly Relevant. You are the LinkedIn top voice for lead generation and marketing strategy. You'll have to tell me how you got there. And you also are the chief nerd officer at AI Nerd and the founder of Never Been Promoted. So I'll definitely want to talk about your journey to entrepreneurship and all things marketing, AI, and lead gen. But first, I'm going to take it back. You went to Indiana University at Bloomington. Fun fact, I grew up in Kansas and I used to go stay on that campus in the summers for junior achievement camp.
Nice.
Totally random.
Like a Hoosier.
So thank you, Thomas, for being on the show.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. I'm excited to have the conversation today.
Yeah. So let's talk about your background. How did you become the top voice for lead generation and marketing strategy? What was your path to get there? Because I definitely see that you have a lot of experience working at different companies, doing a lot of different things in sales and other areas of business. And now you have these great companies. You have a book. You are writing another book.
Yeah. I just feel like, it's either an entrepreneur or entrepreneur. We don't know, right? So, I do have a lot of experience in companies, but I've never been promoted, hence the name of the book. I've been asked to leave, which is an alternative name for the book. Asked worst employee ever. But the road to entrepreneurship is one that finds you sometimes. And, the top voice for lead generation marketing, strategy, amongst 720 some million users on LinkedIn is definitely an honor to be designated that by LinkedIn. It was an intentional campaign, so to speak, of what we started to do to go get one of those and to figure it out. And we can get into details of that a bit. But, it's exciting to be here. There's a lot of stuff. And, for your listeners, either maybe they're fully into their career or they're just starting out. To become an entrepreneur, it doesn't happen usually consciously. Usually it's something you back into. There's a rare few that goes, I'm never working for anybody and doing that. But most people, there's some kind of life event, some type of test of resilience or adaptability or adapt that needs to happen to become one. So lots of stuff to talk about. You guide us. You are our guide. Show me.
Well, I'm like, yes, talk about all of these things, not all at once. But what was your path? What was that defining moment? Because I know for myself, I've been an entrepreneur, then I've gone and worked for somebody else. And then I've gone, I have this idea, I want to do this other thing, and gone to work for myself. And then somehow I get pulled back into a company because they have a shiny object that I want or need in my life at that moment. And then I'm like, well, maybe I'm better as an... So it's a push-pull. And to your point, there are people who are born entrepreneurs. They know that's what they're going to do. They're going to fall down 9 times and get up the 10th time and have a very successful, quote, overnight success company. And then there are people who love what they do and they then decide they want to embark on this entrepreneurship journey, not realizing that what they're very skilled at doesn't mean that they're going to be good at the business side of things. So there's so many ways. So what was your path like? And
yeah, I'll back up just a bit. I was born at a .com time. So, I'm north of 40 now. Right. And so I definitely remember myself being a much better developer than I was way back then, right out of college. But, what I found I was very good at speaking about technology and specifically being able to hold the conversation at a technical, like keyboarder, kind of at the nerd level, right? Up to meeting with an executive in my 20s, 30s of Fortune 500 company to explain what the benefit to the technology was and how it could impact their business. So taking that conversation wave takes you on a consulting path. So I got 20 years or so consulting. The KPMGs, the Accentures of the world. That path is, and there's a lot in between too, but with that consulting path brought me into when this thing called robotic process automation kind of started forming about 10 years ago or so. This is when like AI and Watson was being all advertised. And so I saw the potential of what that could do for business process immediately. And I was telling my wife, I was like, I'm going all in on this technology. And she was like, what? I'm like, I'm going to learn everything I can about it because this is the beginning of changing everything. And I remember doing that and I'd never really became a master of any one thing. It was kind of like you're kind of consulting across a bunch of stuff. But once you make that commitment, and this is maybe a takeaway you can have for the audience, right, is it doesn't matter where you start. It kind of only matters what it's tied to. And what I mean by that is find something you can become a master, very good in, that's a pillar, there's something that's bigger. And once you become like in that pillar of somebody who knows that technology or knows that subject matter really well, and you have the foresight to say, hey, I can bridge into other things because I became very good at it, you'll have the ability to go up into the bigger thing. If you become very good at lots of things across lots of pillars, you won't go you won't go out. You may find a place to be happy in is, but don't expect to become something more if you don't really dive in and own it. And that's like the first lesson of entrepreneurship, I'd say, is, and how I got there is that I decided to, find something I thought I could do and do it well, even though I was working for somebody. But anyway, during that path, just kept taking jobs, more money. Like, really, I never had a chance to get promoted because I always left. And then what happens is you start getting that dream job, chief innovation officer of a $1 billion services company, right? You're making really deep 6-figure income. You're making all your bonuses, like, for 18 months, and a week after your last bonus, they go, hey, we don't see the value anymore. We're going to make a change. And you're like, well, what? And a few weeks later, you're gone. So you're going to make lots of money to zero. And then that's when the humility hits. That's when the humbleness hits. That's when all the turmoil hits you. And that's just the beginning of how you flip as an entrepreneur. I'll pause there because I don't want to continue to talk forever. But that moment was the one that kind of set the path.
Yeah. Wow. I can't even imagine. You're making your bonuses, you're hitting everything you're supposed to, you're showing your value to the company, and then they're just showing that they don't value what you're bringing to the table, or they want more profitability and they don't want to pay your salary and your bonus.
They pay someone cheaper in the organization. They think to do it because, you're a disruptor and the rest of the organization isn't. And there's a million reasons. And at the time, you're angry, you're pissed, you're confused, you're trying to keep a face for your family. And, but inside you're like just ripped up, just like falling apart in the insides. And you're like, what's your epiphany moment? I'd like to hear it. After you lose a job, if you've gone through this, and if you haven't, you're going to at some point. If you don't, then you haven't taken enough risks. I'll say it that way. But you become a home repair guy. That's what happens when you're in your late 30s and your early 40s, and so you're putting up trim on the cabinets you just hung in the laundry room, and you're like, whatever, just, no one's really bugging you. And you go to take an 18 gauge pneumatic air gun, and you go shoot that trim in, and it bounces out of the wall and it goes right through the middle of your finger. Ooh. And I don't mean like left or right. I mean dead on the middle, where you feel it bounce off the bone. And that's not the epiphany moment. Oh, no. It's when you pull the nail out and you don't bleed. And I was like, what? I'm soulless. And I was thinking, why is there a nail in my finger? What? I know all this stuff about AI and technology and business and consulting. Why is there a nail in my finger? So that's the epiphany of like, there's got to be something I can do with that knowledge.
Right.
And I'm like, I'm not having any more nails in my fingers anymore time soon. That being said, I went right back up to shoot the trim. The thing bounced out again and just missed. That's what I learned.
Yeah. Yeah. And
this has been different. Expect something the same, right? So anyway, that's the moment. That was the epiphany. And that's how iNerd was born, because I was thinking to myself in that moment, like, the next day I was kind of like, what did I learn? Like, what was something else I learned? I understand intelligent automation. That's where you automate a process with technology, the idea to accelerate a human, not replace them. And I was like, what do I hate about my role? And I was thinking, besides being laid off, I was thinking, man, marketing sucked. Like, no one knew how to tell a story. It was so many people involved. They had all they cared about these metrics to defend their jobs, not actually produce anything. I was like, that is such a good use case for this AI and technology. And so I started looking at like ways you could create content quicker. And because I got access to OpenAI's beta really, really early, like years ago, because that's what GPT's built on. And I quickly realized that you can do a lot with that and do it way faster. And that's how iNerd got born, is that I thought I monetized the blog really fast, and then I started interviewing people on YouTube. It took me 200 videos to realize that no one wants to watch two AI nerds watch it talk on a Zoom. But it makes a good podcast. So, but it's
there you go.
Of what became, content AI, and then what's the point of marketing, which is generating pipeline for sales, right? It's about making money. So that's how the birth kind of came.
Interesting. And I love the fact that you brought up storytelling, because it is such a thing. There are so many organizations that have so much bureaucracy and so many levels that you have to get through for approvals for one copywriting, piece of work for a commercial or an ad. And so it's not really about, at some point, it's not as much about the brand and the storytelling that they're going to present or could present. It's exactly what you're saying. It's like all these other people and all these other KPIs and metrics, which at the end of the day, and all storytelling should lead back to customer engagement, sales, all of those things you want, but maybe in a less hard-hitting way. And I'm really interested to hear, because I think for most people, AI was kind of, we heard about machine learning, AI, bots, whatever, for chats in your DMs or on your website. But most people didn't really, really start thinking about AI until this year, when all of a sudden, so many more articles about it and so much thing. And I think there's still a lot of misinformation and misunderstanding of how to properly use AI, which is, of course, what you've been able to build your whole business on. and how it can be used as a tool. So before we got on, we talked a little bit about some of your favorite tools, but I'd love to hear, because you are transforming lead gen and sales for companies through being able to use AI data analytics.
Correct. Yeah. And so, and you make a good point though. It's like, you need technologies to accelerate. And I tell this all the time, we don't automate anything. My experience, I've had a cool career, right? And it's still growing. I helped put in the assessment and strategy and implementation for intelligent automation at big companies like Eli Lilly and at Stanley Black, and big, huge companies as a consultant. In every one of those cases, and even the small stuff you do with Chat GPT or whatever you'd like to use, a human needs to lead it. These are powerful technologies that should be leveraged to accelerate. Writing a book, right? You should leverage it with your ideas and your format as a way to do ghostwriting or some type of input to help your brain put your thoughts together in a more, congruent way. You shouldn't turn it over and say, write my book for me. You have to have it human-led. And if you want it to work well, it's got to have originality. It's got to have, authenticity. And you got to keep the core principles of your brand intact when you do it. So this is where a lot of people are going wrong. They're automating things. They're using AI to do the generative piece, which is great for the company who's selling you that stuff because they make a ton because it costs them nothing to run it. It's horrible for your personal brand. It's really bad for long-term success because you're just going to bleed out the audience that might have bought from you and you just became spam. And this is LinkedIn, this is email, this is any social media. If you're doing that, stop now. Like, no matter how attractive it looks, you're just killing your long-term business to do that. If you're going to catch grab, have fun with it. But
Yeah.
just know you're not building a business that's going to be sustainable.
Oh, an example was just past week, somebody reached out to me, a cold email on LinkedIn, which if you're going to cold email me on LinkedIn, don't try to sell me a service right away, please. Don't say,
links and a PDF.
say, oh, we're in the same group. Let's connect. And then try to get me on a call. Like, I don't have time for that. I'm a single mom. I teach grad school. I have a podcast and I have a full-time job. So yeah, just
There's no time for
my little LinkedIn rant. But somebody's message, it said, hi. And then it had the brackets, insert first name here. So I'm like, number one, they didn't send me that message themselves. They did use some automated system that didn't even know my name, didn't personalize it. And I messaged them back. I said, I'm not going to accept this connection request. You didn't even put my name in here. I haven't heard back from them, so I don't even know if it's a real person.
They didn't even do it. No, it's not. You're never going to.
Yeah.
We're to hear back from, we're probably even an avatar account, which is where they look real, they have real pictures, real graduate, and they're all fake. They're absolutely 100% fake.
Yeah.
There's lots of those that are verified, but they're absolutely fake people. And it's usually very pretty people in their 20s to mid 30s.
Interesting.
There's tons of those. We've leveraged them to see how they work. They don't work. So we teach people what to do on LinkedIn. So here's the core of it. We built the whole revenue system that takes you from, A to B in 9 steps, three phases. But I will tell you, you have to create a very intentional core foundation, specifically, let's say for LinkedIn, right? Where you're intentional about how your profile looks, the content you create, and specifically the profile of one, who it is you're trying to connect with and knowing the reasons why. So when you do that, instead of sending a bunch of outbound messages and spamming, living the crap out of people, go engage with their posts thoughtfully and ask provocative questions and drive a dialogue and conversation. That builds credibility. It makes you become known, liked, and trusted. This is what we do as a service for people, but we teach people to do it because when you're in there, be effective, be efficient, and do exactly what the social media algorithms want you to do, which is engage in other people's stuff. Don't ever sell anything. Just if you do it correctly, people will come to you. Like I do about 120 inbound meetings a month, and we don't do any advertising. It's just me commenting, or my profile is commenting on other people's posts. And I'll share those details if you take my call to action at the end of this podcast. I'll explain how that works and how it could work for you. But there's better ways. I would be able to get you on a meeting because I would comment on your post. You would reply. I'd reply back and say, hey, connect with me. I'd love to stay in touch. And I'd shoot you a request. It says, love your dialogue. Would you want to find 20 minutes just to do a quick network? You'd probably say yes. And then it would be unveiled of how that worked. And you'd be like, oh, that's awesome. I want that. Then you get a proposal and then you'll be my client. That's how it's going to work.
Yeah, that's so much. But see, yeah, I'm like, yes, I can buy into that so much easier than I can buy into the other way that people usually
It doesn't work. And who wants to, it's like someone show up your door in the middle of dinner time going, hey, can I sell you something? No, get out of here. I'm busy. Go away. Doesn't work.
Yeah. So how have you seen, because you were at the forefront of AI, how have you seen people's understanding of how to use it grow? How have you seen AI as a tool grow? And how are people not using it effectively as well?
Yeah, great set of questions there. Chat GPT was a very good breakout. They had the right time and they knew it, probably because AI. But they have the right method, which is just conversation. It's more general feeling of AI, which is what people have been looking for. They can ask it anything, get something back. And so that current version of GPT-4 is excellent. The next 4.5 and 5.0 will be even better because it'll go up to modern day internet consumption. So it only goes up to September 2021 right now. But once it'll become very powerful and even better for you. So the best way to use it, I'll say, start with the positive, is leverage it as a strategist, leverage it as, as a persona, as a disgruntled customer or, employee that's difficult. Have it be something that you're not, and have it give you advice based on inputs you'll give it, and there's a lot of stuff you can do with that, but you leverage it in a way that it's a thinking tool, not Google. And so not as a search mechanism.
Okay.
It's very good at explaining things. So let's say you're raising money for your company and you're like, here's the current, investment set, and this guy wants to give money. Could you explain, whatever, how the cap table would be changed and what their possible owners. It does such a good job of doing stuff like that with math and explaining things. So you use it to help you do things you can't do, not just be a soundboard for what you already know. And then second, I would say people are misusing it by not putting their own personal brand or own thoughts into it. So they're just taking the generic dump back. It's a mistake. Social media specifically will start downgrading. It'll know it's a AI generated fully context or text, and it'll start downgrading that in the algorithm, and it'll be of zero value. It'll fall flat to your target audience if you even know what that is. Right. And so there's just don't use it without thought. Use it to accelerate you, not to just replace thinking.
So for that, for instance, a brand is going through their blueprint. They know who their target audience are, their key customer personas. So for that kind of exercise, they could put in, come up with a message for this audience, and they could put the audience descriptors in.
Yeah.
Motivate them to feel XYZ about my company.
Exactly. So one thing you can do with GPT is specific in the beta versions is you can put custom instructions and custom response types. So you can put everything about that company in there, who they are, where they're located, their values, their core missions, how they like to respond, if it's humorous, with brevity, with whatever it is, purpose.
Personality.
Exactly. You set it all up, and then you could put the whole thing into one of the chats, let's say, and say, hey, what's a good tagline? And then, in a sub-statement behind it, brand statement after it. And it's so good at capturing that and say, oh, that's too salesy, be more provocative. And it's so good. And it's very, that's a good use of branding. Now, that doesn't, go into the colors, the feels, but right. You can ask it, so what would be a good, given this audience, what colors, what schema works? And then you go to Canva and you go build your brand boards and stuff. And so you should be using some of these technologies like this to accelerate that process. It doesn't replace the agencies that do this, right? It just helps accelerate the fundamentals. Okay, now we can start building copy, and now we can start getting the scenes, and you can ask it, say, what would be a good ad scene, and what's the imagery that would make sense? And it can help small companies really, I take those for some of our podcasts and I send it to my team and say, hey, could you create a B-roll based film with my voiceover that does this? Here's some suggestions on imagery. It really speeds up the process because they have and it works great. So anyway, that's how I would leverage that tech for a brand, is to get fundamental understanding based on the inputs you give to it. And that's why I think the new versions will come out next year or so will be very good because it'll take more modern real-time input, what's working.
But you're making the case that even with the upgrades that are coming, there will still need to be human component. There's still going to need somebody making sure that when you're reading things, you're not just turning out, like you said, the generic messaging, that it really is brand congruent.
Absolutely. You have to. And I think more powerful tools in the future will pull all that together. Mm-hmm. So, think about it from almost a strategy or assessment. You could upload all your brand, your media kits, all the things, your statements, scan a website and say, what are the gaps? What can we do? How can we make this work together better?
Yeah.
That would be a big platform. I certainly think that's coming. I think that would be a great tool because then you can, tie in metrics and SEO related things and other things to say that actually based in math and attribution. And so there'll be some cool mega companies coming that will do stuff around that in the marketing space.
You're not going to be the person. You don't want to do that for us? Because I know on the PR side of things, there are a lot of PR tools that are now saying, hey, we can generate your AI press release for you. On the other side, journalists are saying, we know when it's something that's just been AI, by AI, same way that a consumer is going to know this doesn't sound like the brands that I'm following. So it would still needs that human element. But if you want to create that tool for all of us, I'm sure that, I know a ton of people, including myself, who would sign up
They're right. And so the thing we are creating is the revenue system for generating leads with social media, right? It's like how you go through a journey and how you manage that all in one spot. That is something we're going to build. So it's on that lines. I haven't really thought about bringing the website and other components in, but let's call that future release after we raise money and built the first use case around that. But that's what I would think is it's a revenue system. So how do you bring brand in? Where do you bring people in? Where do you bring other technologies, CRM, if you will, or other types of, generative things in there? Like, where do you bring those things in and bring it together in one spot? Because what I find is that CRMs are way too complex. There's too much stuff to do in them, as opposed to just where are people flowing? What are you sending them, right? There's things that are, I don't need every AI tool in the world. I just need a note taker. I don't even need the whole transcript. It's not a deposition. What I need is the AI tool to say, I've already summarized this thing for you. That's the value. Is I can't copy the whole thing into it. So like some technologies, they're not there yet. They're kind of like they're dumb, if you will. I just need to just create the summary and send it to everybody in the group and take out the humorous parts or take out, just keep it focused. And that's where these technologies start to come together. I know we're wondering a little bit, but I think the idea is that as you're listening to this and you think about how, you're going to leverage this in your business, in your life, what you're also hearing is a thing called technology fatigue. There's a lot. And so if your head started getting a headache, you're like, I don't know what to do, totally understand that. Don't. Just understand what you do well in a core business, and then look at the rest of your business or what you do that's repeatable, that you don't like doing, and see if there's one single tech that can just do that part of it for you without it being too confusing. If it is, integrate it into your life as a tool. If it seems overwhelming, it's too much, seems like it's more work than just doing it yourself, then don't. Then just wait till something comes in. But that's how you leverage this without getting technology fatigue, because there's so much. Maybe, call someone who knows to figure out how to simplify your life a little bit with the technology tools. But there's a lot out there. Don't get the fatigue. Don't overstress. Just seek some advice.
To that point, because there are so many even AI tools, and people often wonder which one's the best one for research, or if you are in academia versus you're trying to write that perfect caption or blog post. Are you ready to take your brand to new heights? Join the Brand Amplifier for Entrepreneurs program. Learn how to build, elevate, and amplify your brand with a comprehensive 10-module course. Learn more about it and other ways to implement our strategies at fullcapacitymarketing.com. Click on EFCM Learning Hub for more information. Can't wait to help you amplify your brand. And so you've talked a lot about ChatGPT and GPT-4. Is that your go-to platform? Are there other ones that you use or that you would recommend people use in different use cases?
Yeah, I think it's a mix of few technologies. So, and some aren't AI, but I think you have to understand that there's a lot of BS AI that's just more analytics and data. But we're big fans of GPT over Bard at this point in late 2023. There'll be other large language models that'll come out that'll be specific probably to social media. So meaning like Meta may have a very specific one for Meta to help you. I don't know how much advantage it actually just gets people using their version of it. It's probably an upsell, because if everyone's doing it, then there's no value in it unless you make it your original pieces. So anyway, there'll be a lot of people making it. The other thing is you leveraging just automation and workflow tools like Calendly or, Otter or Fathom for video and the recording of just these, interactions and things like this. But looking for things I love are like Zapier, connecting in my CRM to a Gmail, to a type form for the podcast, all that stuff, making so it just has a workflow that I don't have to be responsible for, that ties to my Stripe account. Look for things that connect things together and make your life easier. So Zapier is a big one. Calendly, the huge one. I don't know what I would do without Calendly right now. I love MailChimp. That's our CRM. We don't overcomplicate it.
Nice.
I'm not paid by any of them, just so you know.
I am actually a member of the Intuit Small Business Council, and I'm going to Atlanta in about a month to look at some new innovations MailChimp is coming out with. So thank you for talking about MailChimp.
When you do it, I'll make sure I meet you at the, we're part of Atlanta Tech Village. So I know where you have your,
yeah, I'll be in Atlanta, and I forgot that you're located in Georgia.
That's right. So I'll make sure I tag along and learn those MailChimp things too. No, I'm going to invite myself on with that. But that's what you got to do though. I think if I was thinking about your business user listening here, or what do I use? You don't need an expensive CRM typically, unless you really are doing a lot of things. Find the simplest way to capture people who are interested in your company and be able to occasionally send them an email, just from a basic philosophy. Find ways if you're, Calendly is great if you want to just look across a lot of calendars to get easy scheduling. That's a good tool. Intuit from a business book standpoint, there's a million of them out there. Just find something that helps you with accounting, stuff like that. You don't need all the bells and whistles. Just have somebody go through and do it for you. But yeah, I mean, like, and here's my final thing. I'd say from a social media standpoint, pick one where your customers are at and just go all in on that. And then if you're like, just start there and really build a community around that. And then learn how to just auto post in other places for the purposes when people search your name that you show up. But focus on the one where they are. And I mean, like, pick Instagram over Facebook, let's say. Like, don't have to do both. Just pick one and go really deep into it and own it.
That was going to be my next question. Speaking of, technology fatigue, so many social media platforms, new ones popping up all the time. Do we need to be on Threads? Do we need to continue being on X? Are they going to start charging us to be on X? Do you need to be on Spill? Do you want memes? Lemonade, like all of these things that people are trying to figure out how to use. And then there's always that first person who comes on. And for me, I was like, oh, I'll go on Threads. It's kind of like old day Facebook where I just post some random comment. And then the next thing I see is somebody telling you how to monetize and how to turn it into your business. And I think we get tired of all of that, right? And so like you, I always recommend pick one social media platform as your main platform to start with, where your key audience is living. Reserve the names on everything else. You don't want anybody else to steal that, right? That's gold.
Well, best you can, right?
Yeah, the best you can. But I know that you really lean into LinkedIn. Would you say that LinkedIn is the most powerful social media platform for the world of business right now? Or do you have other ones that you also think are the hot thing right now, regardless of whether that's the right thing for somebody who's listening's business?
Let's say you're a student to, whatever. I think LinkedIn's fantastic for the professional presentation, for your executive eminence. So how you are perceived as like from your gravitas, if you will. Even if you're on other social media, you need to have some type of professional profile on LinkedIn. I strongly recommend that. So I think for people that are doing B2B sales, like let's say software or even high ticket items like conferences or even just high end coaching, you need to have a very strong presence there if your community is there. Now, let's say you're a pool builder of high-end stuff. They're not on LinkedIn. Instagram would be a much better one. You're more visual. There's videos. So to have, let's say, a professional profile. So if they check you out, you kind of check out. But I would go to Meta for that. If you're doing products, widgets, do things that encourage people to get the card out really quickly. And that's not LinkedIn. That's more like Twitter or YouTube or something. So part of when we work with customers is determining, let's come to us for LinkedIn, but sometimes we're like, no, we should probably build the YouTube version because that's a much better channel for you because you're doing educational videos. LinkedIn's interesting, but no one's getting the credit card out on that channel. They're getting it out on the YouTube one because that's where they're expecting to buy that from. And I think it's also important to remember, specifically on LinkedIn, people aren't there to buy anything. They're there to get a job or sell something. And so if you're able to sell something, that's great, but they were not intending to buy to be there. The services that work well there are like ours that help other people sell things better on LinkedIn. They aren't there typically to buy blankets or makeup or horses.
I would hope not. Oh gosh.
But there's people that are trying to do that. They may be there to buy coaching, but it's usually coaching for their business so they can sell. So if you're helping people sell things on LinkedIn better, you're in a good spot. But if you're in there trying to sell them something, they're not there to buy anything. And so on Instagram, they're there to buy something. Pinterest, they're there to buy something. Facebook, they're there to learn something, and then they'll maybe go buy what's in your group. Having that understanding when you're building your business is super important. I mean, if you want to localize stuff, I wouldn't use LinkedIn as your primary channel typically because it's to everybody. I'd go to Alignable or Nextdoor or even just Facebook groups. So you got to understand that part of step one so you don't waste money and time is where to go.
Well, and I love that. That takes it back to instantly relevant to your business. So what does it look like when somebody comes in to learn about your services and how to work with you? Do you have courses that they can take also, or do you work primarily one-on-one with organizations, with entrepreneurs?
Yeah, I'm laughing and smiling because it's what I've done for you service right now. My team is on me to create the do-it-yourself version. So the courses, I got 3 kids and coaching basketballs, and like I need to find a time to go film those too, right? And I'm stepping a little in what I tell my customers to do, which is don't chase perfect, but I'm conscious of video quality and what I'm going to show them so it doesn't suck, right? So that is coming out. It's a 2024 initiative to have a course. But with speaking of archetypes or ideal customer profiles, it's full-aged male entrepreneur in the U.S. So it's guys 35 to almost 60 that they're growing a business, they understand the value of investment, and they're trying to figure out LinkedIn how to do that. The other is the on-the-rise female marketing leader. So it's always female, by the way. It's CMO, director of marketing, understaffed, way too thin, need some scale, have some budget, and they really just need to help build their social media profiles and get some stuff done. We really help them out a lot. The other is the aspiring kind of sales leader. So it's somebody in a chief revenue officer or a VP of sales that's trying to improve their account executive outreach, and the methods we do significantly change how you interact with people on LinkedIn. So we help them out quite a bit as well. But that could be from a solopreneur to, we have an $8 billion unicorn as a company. So it's the same methodology, but just, it's industry agnostic. But do yourself one I'd like out. I'd like to be able to sell 1,000 of those courses. And the reason is because, we're not, it's not free. Like, you have to be somewhat successful to afford our services because we're a premium service and do this. But there's a whole group that's just starting. If I could give them a course that they could be on a better path, it's a big market set, and we just don't have it yet in our brand kind of quiver of arrows, but it's coming.
Well, it's good. This is going to be a perfect tee up then, so that people can get on a wait list perhaps on your website.
That's what I needed, a landing page and a wait list. Do it yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
I'm not cracking the whip, but helping motivate you right now.
But it's a great idea. It's like, that should be a 2-minute simple video of like, hey, if you want to learn to do this yourself, sign up for the wait list. You'll be the first to get it as a massive video. I already have the video, so that's good. We just got to change the wording a little bit.
Yeah, done.
Great idea.
So what are some ways that founders can be more agile with their time, resources, and money through using AI, through using the right other tools in their toolbox? You made the transition from being in companies, having to be really innovative and entrepreneurial in those organizations, I feel like. But then when you step out to be a founder of your own company, what are some things that you've learned that you think other people should also use?
How to be agile. I think it's more of a mindset and thinking, to not be a Kmart or a Blockbuster. You have to evolve with the times. So, this takes, part of what I always say is you always got to be learning, and you got to be somewhat of a kid, right? You got to be curious and ask. If you're doing anything as you've always done it, you're on a bad path. Even if it's working, you have to ask, is this still the right thing, even though it's working today? Like, is what I'm doing today as a business and the processes we have, are they rooted in that's how we've always done it? Or are we doing it because that's what I was taught? So a good example is like a lot of mid-sized companies hire, let's say, marketing executives from bigger companies, and they come in they become like rabbits, and they want to multiply their team, right? And they want to do all these big things they heard of big companies. That doesn't work for a small company. You got to be lean and focused and not repeat what you've always done. So because you won't have the budget, you won't have the time, and you surely don't need to measure everything you do in a big company. So question, if you're a business leader, or, always be, quarterly, I look at our service offerings and our brand and say, do they align? Is it hitting the need? Do we need to make I want to call it a pivot, or do we have to evolve a little bit? And you should be doing this consciously once a quarter to look at a 12-month out rolling strategy. Like, you have to. That's how you stay agile. And if you don't know something, like, I'm not sure, go take a class, go call somebody and have them look at it. Because if you don't know what you don't know, you're in trouble, because it's going to come out of nowhere to disrupt you.
Yeah, that's so important. It's something I say to my students even, because right now we're going through the process of building their own brands, because I'm telling them this is how you're going to be better positioned to get your ideal job and know how to position your clients. Some of them are going to go into PR, some go to social media, management, whatever else they go into, but always going back and redefining and looking and seeing, are we still matching our values? Do our values need to shift a little bit based on who we are right now? Are we serving the audience that we set out to serve? Are we not? And those are things that go right hand in hand with what you just said. You always have to keep up and make sure that you are serving yourself and your company in the best way possible, but also serving that ideal customer persona, or figuring out who you need to pivot to if you've changed a little bit and you've realized that the audience that you want to reach has changed.
Yeah. I will tell your students too, don't be afraid. If you go to school for whatever, you invest all this time and your money or parents' money or whatever, somebody's money into education. If you're in the fortunate spot where you have debt out of school, get that shit paid off as fast as possible. Give some stuff up. And the reason is because at some point you're going to want to go do something else, and you're going to be stuck because you bought a car, you got too much of a house. If you get into your job in the first year and you realize that I do not want to be in this space, make the pivot early. It doesn't matter what you invest in your time, whatever, just get to something that that aligns, that makes you feel good. Because what's going to happen is this, right? And I'm sure you've seen this, is that people who have talent and passion for something will significantly outperform you, even if you're smarter, period. They will always, because you won't have the drive and will do it. So if you don't have the passion or the kind of capabilities, but you're smart, you might even be smarter. You have to find where you have passion and capabilities, and your smarts are leveraged in that context. Then you have a massive advantage. No matter where in your career, you're going to go great. You're going to find opportunities left and right. You'll be disrupted because some people who will be your boss will be just threatened by that, but you will be on a good path. But if you see that person has loves to be organized, and they love their Excel hell, and they can't sleep unless a task can get checked off, and you're not like that, and you're in project management, get out of it now. because you will suck at that job in 2 years and it'll be obvious and you're going to get laid off. You're going to be gone. You're going to be horrible at it. If you find that you can communicate better and you can sell people on ideas, go get into sales now and go learn how to do that, because that's what I'm saying, just get into it. And technology aside, everything else, just find where passion and talent meet up.
Yeah, I love that. That is where I try to live every day and what I try to model to other people. So thank you for sharing that. Now, your book, Never Been Promoted, Unleash Your Entrepreneur. Talk a little bit about that. And then you're also writing another book right now. And when is that going? Can you tease that out a little bit for us?
Well, I have 2 books. Okay. One was so I did an experiment. So I wrote one with the ghostwriter on routes you can take as an entrepreneur. So 0 to hero, franchise, whatever, right? That one I actually put on the shelf to the one I was writing in parallel, leveraging GPT-4 as my ghostwriter. So to be clear, it didn't write it. It's all my ideas. It just takes my brain and it organizes it into a format and structure that I wanted each chapter to follow. So it's 50 lessons I wish I would have known. That book is the one that's coming out next. It's Never Been Promoted. The podcast is launched. Here it is, late 2023. This year it should come out. And that one, it's really the 50 things there's more than 50, but I'd keep it to a sensible length. If I had, and I would today, do the things in this book that I recommend, you'd be better at life will be better, right? I mean, it's like, and specifically if you become an entrepreneur and you're stuck in a W-2 job, that's where I was, take some of these principles as you launch your side hustle, as you look at your W-2 job as an angel investor.
Okay.
You look at it as, I'm going to work at this and I'm going to do you may have to get promoted if you kind of get your mindset right. But if you really want to exit this job, do your job good enough to keep it, but don't sweat if you're not going to hit your full bonus, because you already know in your mind that you're going to leave. But that's not a bad way to think about how you do a W-2 job. Like, as a full-time job, is like, I really want to leave, but it's paying my bills until I can get it up. Anyway, would you do these things? You'll in the book that you really will unleash your entrepreneur much better, because you'll just have a better way of thinking. And when you're an entrepreneur, you said single mom or teacher. If you're an entrepreneur, it hits harder. Like, you want to cry up in the corner more often. Cry it off. You go through, you question your life hourly sometimes. You're a customer, you lose the next hour, you're like, oh my God, what's going on in my, like, it hits harder because it's on you. And you find that the security you thought you had in a W-2 in a full-time job when you're an entrepreneur, you realize was actually false. So I've been laid off like 6 times, right? Like, it's false. There's no security in it. What I find is I control my own path now. And it's on me to make more money or to save more or operational costs. It's all on me. And that's a lot of pressure, but it's on me. It's not like, I'm not worried about a boss firing me or it's some other condition, made another acquisition or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
It's on me. It's my role. So there's more security actually. And that's how you get to the point of unleashing an entrepreneur is realizing how to handle all that.
I love this reframing, and I'm going to look forward to reading your book when it comes out. Now, if somebody goes to your website, will they be able to find out how to pre-order the book and what resources are available for somebody who might not be in that ideal persona and be able to afford your done-for-you services at this moment?
So I like your pre-sale idea. It's come up twice. I'm going to take that. But Tara's kids are naked in our case. So we're a LinkedIn business. So we actually produce 0 revenue from our website. It's there as a way to show that we're real, whatever else. We're doing it always. Because we're a LinkedIn business, we're instantly relevant. And so if you want something there, you come to linkedin.com/Thomas Helfrich and just go to my profile and DM me if you want something. There'll be a call to action on my profile. Take that if you want to kind of get in touch and learn what's going on. For the book, it'll be at neverbeenpromoted.com. Today is a 2023. It's a podcast site, but it'll be expanded. And that's where you'll be able to get book and order and go on and do things from there. But I know I'm giving multiple call to actions, but at the end of the day, that's the plight of the entrepreneur. But the truth is, just come find me on LinkedIn, because that's where we live and we breathe, and you get a lot of value from coming through that.
Awesome. Well, we'll put that in the show notes as well, so that everybody can flood your inbox. And I just had my students go through their LinkedIn profiles and comment on each other's LinkedIn profiles. So we're going to be talking about that in class tomorrow. And I'm going to have to give this episode to them early to listen to, so that they can
listen. If you would like me to do, I'll call your baby ugly session on their profiles. Oh, I'd happily do that. That's a fun. Everyone will have to show up and be ready to. Maybe their baby's not ugly. Maybe it's just dressed ugly. Maybe it hit every branch on the tree, or the ugly tree falling off. But yes, I would happily do that with you. But also be constructive. Like there's certain things that'll help. I do offer this to a few podcasts. All right, this has been a good conversation. So if anybody was moved to this point in the conversation, if you text, don't call, okay, we'll pick up a number. If you text this number, it's my personal cell phone, it's this one right here. I will reply and find time with you.
Wow.
I'll be ready. And I mean it. If you spam me, I'm going to spam you back. So anyway, it's 314-954-6900. That's 314-954-6900. That's my personal text phone number. Now, they can't go to show notes. They got to know it to hear audio-wise. You don't tell them where it is. You just tell them toward the end. They have to listen. I probably should do it more creatively, where I give out parts of it throughout the show. Say, here's the next 3 digits of my number.
You'll have to do that for the next show you're on. For sure.
You can chop it up if you like to. But if they do that, I'll actually, that's actually my personal phone. And so I will find time and just say, to reference the podcast you heard, and I'll find time with you. And I'll personally go over your LinkedIn. I'll find 20 minutes or something, go over your personal LinkedIn account and tell you this is what I would do, what your goals are, and make an introduction.
Amazing. Well, we're definitely going to be following up about a number of things. I have plans to get you into other podcasts and speaking engagements and all kinds of stuff. Yeah. So this is going to be fun. I've learned a lot. I've had a lot of fun having this conversation with you, Thomas, and learning a little bit about your backstory, just enough to want to learn more and figure out how I can get to the point where I can work with Instantly Relevant as well.
That's right. Well, we can certainly figure stuff out. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciated the time.
Yeah. And I just wanted to ask if you have any last words of wisdom or advice, and if you have a favorite quote, mantra, or family motto that you'd like to share with us.
I always quote Yoda, do or do not, there is no try. So anybody out there, like if you're talking about becoming an entrepreneur, you're never going to become one, just go do it. If you're thinking of what you could become, go do it. Just start working towards something, I probably should do it for myself for these landing pages and maybe working out a little bit more, but you just got to do stuff and you got to go learn from it. So
awesome.
I love quoting people who don't really exist, but someone wrote that somewhere.
Exactly.
The person who wrote that, do or do not, there is no try. It's like, I said that, not Yoda. And they don't, the writer.
Right. And that person has to exist, or the team of writers who wordsmithed that together.
Maybe it was AI. We don't know.
That's so funny. I was just going to say that. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Thomas. This has been a really delightful conversation. Thank you to the audience for listening to another expert. Don't forget to go on to LinkedIn and find Thomas Helfrich. It'll be spelled in the show notes, and his LinkedIn profile will be in there as well. So you can learn about how to transform lead generation and so many other things for your business. Learn all about the entrepreneurship journey and how to make it a success out of other people's trials and tribulations. And with that, I'll be back again in a few days with another great guest. Want more? Check out amplifywithannika.com or follow me on socials at amplifywithannika.